Hey guys, today's video is going to be kind of a discussion video on DNFing books, and I'm also going to throw in there some of my thoughts on A Little Life, which I DNF'd earlier this week. And ever since I DNF'd that book, I've been thinking about what it would take or what criteria I have for DNFing books, and that's why I'm making this video. I want to share with you what it takes for me to DNF a book, but I also want to hear your side of things and get your opinions and thoughts on DNFing books. Earlier this week, I DNF'd A Little Life. I was reading it with Marie Berg, and according to my Kindle, I got up to 51% of the book, so I got halfway through. This is a very long book, so halfway through is about, I think, 350 pages. So I do think I gave it a fair shot. In the beginning of the book, I didn't really have much to say because not much happens until much later in the book. So when it first started, I was like, well, this is okay, you know, I'm hoping that it will pick up, that I will find out a little bit more about this main character, and that I will see why everybody has such an emotional response to this book. But Marie and I were discussing it as we kept reading on. It just got worse and worse. And I just want to say that before I start talking about A Little Life, I'm not going to spoil anything, but I am not going to be positive about it. So if you really enjoyed A Little Life, if that was one of your favorite books last year, which I know was for a lot of people, please don't feel like I'm attacking your reading tastes or I'm just hating on the book. I'm really going to try to be as critical as I can and try not to be too negative, but I can't really promise that because I do have a lot of feelings about this book. So my thoughts on A Little Life are, I thought it was over the top, melodramatic, unrealistic, and a huge disappointment. I think A Little Life is a perfect example of everything that is wrong with modern literary fiction. And I know that's a lot to say, but I've read a lot of literary fiction and this just does not come close. I had a lot of issues with the plot, but mainly I had a lot of issues with Jude as a main character. Because I honestly feel that if you were to take away Jude's self-loathing and horrible past, he would be a shell of a person. This is somebody that I felt there was zero character development from the beginning to 51% of what I read. A whole bunch of ridiculous situations happened to him, and his past is just so over the top. I really felt like the author made a list before she wrote this book about all of the possible things that could have happened to Jude, and she came up with maybe 15 things. And instead of picking 3, she went with all 15. All of these things cannot happen to just one person. It's like a Lifetime movie in a book. It really made me not want to carry on reading because I did not see this ending at all in any sort of positive note. And I was right because I went to read about the plot, the rest of the plot, and it does not get better. It gets a lot worse. And it really validated my feelings because I knew that if I would have read till the very end, all 700 and something pages, I would have been so pissed that I wasted my time. Even the writing was not that great. It was just too much detail, too much was added onto this book that was so unnecessary. I did not enjoy it, and ever since I DNF'd it, I've been thinking about why I DNF'd it and why now, because the last 2 years or so, I have not DNF'd many books. I think I've only DNF'd 2. So for me to DNF A Little Life, this huge book that everybody seems to love, well, some people don't like it, but the general consensus is that it's a great book. And I think the reason is because I have been focusing on reading such quality books for the past year and a half or so, and I can see myself developing kind of like a reading palette where I know what works for me, I know what kind of writing styles I gravitate towards, I know what kind of stories I get the most out of. It's so easy for me to just say no to books that I know will end up being disappointments or I'm just not going to get anything out of them. But I think there's only 2 things that I really keep in mind as far as a criteria for DNFing books, and that is the length of the book and the writing style of the book. Those are 2 things that I can notice right away. So when I look at A Little Life, if I were to pick that book up, it's like this thick. It's a really long book, and I am looking at it and thinking what a commitment it will be, how much time it's going to take me. And I'm also calculating in my head, well, if it's 700 pages, that's 3 books that are about 220 pages or 2 books that are about 300 pages. And there's so many books that I want to read and so many great books out there that I know are out there for me. And so I'm already making those calculations in my head when I pick up a big book like that. And I think if A Little Life would have been cut in half, if it would have been maybe 350 pages, I would have finished it just because it's short enough. And you know, maybe it would have been one of those hate reads where even though you hate it, you're still reading because it's not going to take too much of my time. Another thing is the writing style of a book. I can already tell what kind of writing styles I gravitate towards, what type of writing that I get the most out of. And A Little Life, to me, that type of writing is not my ideal writing style. It's just so bloated. That's like the best word I can use to describe this writing style. It's a whole paragraph that could really be 2 sentences, and I can tell that it can be 2 sentences. I can imagine how another author would make the most out of this paragraph, and I think that's because I've been reading the kind of books that I've been reading that I have no patience now. Those are my 2 kind of criteria that I am starting to realize that I look for and I look at right away. And so that made me curious about you guys, my viewers and other booktubers, your thoughts on DNFing books. Is this something that you do often? Have you seen yourself DNFing books more now than before, or vice versa? Do you have any sort of criteria for DNFing books? I'd love to hear any of that in the comments below. Feel free to comment and let me know what you think. Feel free to participate in that. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.